Castopod is an empowering tool to the individual. You don't have to, for example, go to a podcasting platform to get your message out, and it's free. You get to control the platform itself. This is the way for podcasters to become censorship resistant. When it comes to their voices being shut down, well, this is an alternative to dealing with any of that. You can't shut down somebody who owns their own content. So if you are helping a friend or maybe even a business get their podcast off the ground, this is a great tool just to get started. It's a very basic podcast hosting platform, but it's very effective too. It does everything that you need it to do, and it makes sure that you own your content. So that's very empowering to podcasters. Now, before we get started, you ought to have a server that's live and internet facing to the interwebs, and you're going to need a domain name at any DNS provider. I suggest for a DNS provider easydns.com because I really like those guys over there for ideological reasons. I think that they're very good at the whole free speech on the internet thing. And let me show you that interface real quick. In here at easydns.com, this is the interface that I'm going to be showing later for creating different DNS records. We'll get to that in a little bit. And over here at Castopod's documentation, this is the main reason why I'm creating the tutorial, is because I feel like their documentation just doesn't cut it. They give you some basic requirements and fundamentals, but they don't walk you through it in the right order, and they also don't explain anything. So for example, if you're going to be creating this cron job, which runs every minute of every day, you probably shouldn't do that until after you do the install wizard. Because if you're running these jobs, they don't even exist yet. Stuff like that. So there's just like little things in here that really got me hung up. It took me all day to figure out how to decipher how they wanted this to get created and installed. And I came up with my own documentation, and now I'm just going to share it with you guys. I am just going to get right into it. Thank you for joining me, and pull open your terminal on your server, and let's get started. First things first is installing MariaDB, and actually sudo apt update, sudo apt upgrade, get that out of the way. And now install MariaDB. It's going to be sudo apt install MariaDB server, MariaDB client. And this is probably going to go kind of fast on my machine since I'm reinstalling it. But you are probably going to sit around for a little bit waiting for this to load. While that's happening, I'll show you what's going on in the browser. I have EasyDNS open for my domain hosting platform. Kayun.host for my server. This is just their docs on their privacy policy. I like their privacy policy. It's just, we don't store anything. It's very simple. Not 10 pages of why we store everything. Okay, going back to Castopod docs here. We're going to be following this kind of. There's some things that we need to tweak on it because it's not clear enough. There's the PHP documentation here for installing PHP. We're going to be doing PHP FPM for optimizing purposes. And then we have certbot docs. We're going to need that for SSL and configuring that with our DNS. And then our Castopod repository. So we're actually going to take one of these sources and install it on our server. That's going to be much later. We got to do a whole bunch of stuff before we finally get to that. And this tutorial isn't configuring Castopod or explaining what it is. This tutorial is simply installing Castopod. Next, I'm going to check the status sudo systemctl status of MySQL. Oh boy, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Okay, it says that it is enabled, so we don't have to enable it, and it's active. No errors, good to go. Next, there's a MySQL secure installation script that you should walk through and read it yourself. I'm going to step through it quickly, but you're going to want to configure some things in here. Right here, you can safely hit enter. The next one, you can say, let's see here, setting the root password. Yeah, you might want to do that. You go ahead and configure this the way that you're going to configure it. No. And then MariaDB, you should remove them. Yes. Anonymous users. And then disallow root. Yes. Remove the test database. Yes. And reload privileges. Yes. Okay. So MySQL is done with its installation, and we can move on to the PHP part of it. Next, I can install the PHP repository, but first I'm going to add it to my sources list. That's GPG key and stuff. Here's a few tools that we'll be using throughout this. So go ahead and install these guys here. LSB release, CA certificates, curl. We might already have them on your machine, but I know that I don't have everything. This is a stripped down Debian Linux environment. There's nothing to it. I just created a user and some basic bash commands that I like. And then we're going to get this key from this source. All right, and then we run this command to add it to our list. And then we're going to do a sudo apt update. And then sudo apt install all of these packages. You don't need all of these packages. These are just common ones that I install on my WordPress websites. This isn't WordPress, it's just PHP. In general, I want these things on there because I use them. Especially, you'll see that we're going to need PHP itself, PHP FPM, and this GD library. So go ahead and get those things installed. Man, that took a while. Okay, next we can do a php-v to confirm that PHP is installed. Next, we're going to install the dependencies that were listed on their docs over here. They listed them like this. This is the command that I'm going to use. Sudo apt install-y, PHP 8.4. And if this is out in the future, use whatever PHP version you feel comfortable with. I'm not going into the specifics of all these things, what they are. Just trying to get Castopod on your screen so that we can start podcasting. Okay, next thing is confirming that those got installed. So run this command, php-m grep the things, and it should list the things. And then we're going to update our php.ini file. So go to your path of your PHP and edit this file because we need to update the memory limit, the max upload size, stuff like that, so that we can actually upload episodes of our podcast. So do Control W, search for a keyword like memory limit. If you're in Nano, if you're using some other tool, then adjust accordingly. So memory limit's going to be set to 256. Next, I'm going to look for, let's see, 64. I'm going to change that. Next one's going to be post max size. I know I'm going kind of quick. You can stop the video and do your thing in order to catch up. The next thing is max execution time. Look for that in here. I'm going to change that to 300 so it doesn't time out when we're trying to upload a file. Then max input vars. And I think this one is actually commented out if I remember right. Yes. This one's got a comment character in front of it, so make sure you get rid of that. And then add a 0 to the end. That's 10,000. And we're going to save this. Whoops. Control X, Y, enter. Good. And then we have to run this command to restart PHP FPM. Every time we make a change that affects PHP, we're going to be doing that. So we do it pretty often. Next, I'm going to just install FFmpeg support. And before we do that, we have to make sure that we have these things enabled in our PHP. So let's just confirm that those are in there. It's JPEG support, PNG, and WebP support. So write out this command, php-i grep a10 gd support, and what you're looking for is JPEG support enabled, PNG support enabled. I don't see WebP in here, and from the docs that I've read, we want to run this to install it, sudo apt install-y libwebpdev. And then Once that is done installing, you actually want to reinstall something that we already installed, which is this PHP 8.4-GD. You would have seen that right here. It's the JPEG, PNG, and WebP libraries. So go ahead and reinstall that. It should recompile with WebP support enabled. Then what we want to do is confirm that we got XML and JSON working. We should be able to just do a grep, php-m grep e, looking for these characters. So we got JSON coming back, XML, and MySQL ND. These other ones came up as well because they match that XML regex. So those can be ignored. Don't worry about all that. Then, just to confirm that the JSON encoder is working, you can test it out. php-r echo. It's converting this PHP, I think that's an associative array, to a JSON object. All right. Now, I'm going to get to the ffmpeg part. This is pretty simple, but you're going to need it for video support. Sudo apt install -y ffmpeg. That's what I mean about the docs. They don't spell it out for you like that. There's so many different ways to install things. You wonder, especially with PHP, you wonder what exactly is the command to do these things. Just go ask AI, I guess, is one way to do it. Or you could watch this video. All right, this looks like it's going to take a while. I'll skip past this part and meet you on the other side. All right, once that's done, I can do an ffmpeg version to confirm that it was installed. And notice the 1- on the version. All right, now I want to do the free type library. So this little guy, sudo apt install -y lib free type 6 dev, will get us free type. And then we're going to recompile that PHP 8.4 GD again. These things are taking a little bit of time, so if you see that this thing's just crawling along, then go get yourself a cup of coffee or go doom scroll or something. Go read a book. How about that? Go read your books, educate yourselves, etc. All right, sudo apt install reinstall PHP 8.4 GD once again to recompile with the free type library. Now we're going to check support. This is a different command, so be careful. php-i grep a15 GD supports for checking for free type support, which should be enabled, and free type linkage with free type. That's looking good. And then notice here, we actually have WebP support enabled as well. So that's good. That's something we did earlier. Moving on to PHP FPM. Oh, gotta restart PHP FPM. Make sure you do that since we made changes to some PHP libraries. This next part is pretty involved, but very necessary. We're going to be installing Nginx and SSL, and I'll have to hop between my command prompt and my DNS provider to configure this. And certbot, there's a bunch of stuff going on all at once here. I'm going to clear my screen and do a sudo apt install nginx. Yes. Now, you should have come up with a name for your website by now. Hopefully you have a domain. Hopefully you have usernames and passwords and whatnot for Castopod. I like to set up my sites available file with the subdomain and domain of where I'll be installing it. Just that's how way I like to name this file, is what I'm saying. I'm going to paste. This is the server block. We're going to need the server name pointing to your DNS that you're about to set up. It doesn't exist yet. I'm going to go over here and do that. The root should point to the public folder of the Castopod installation. And this is where I'm going to install all of that. So then we're going to need our index PHP, index HTML, try files for PHP rendering, and then blocking any attempts to go to .env. This is necessary as well. If you don't have this, your browser will attempt to download your PHP files instead of render them. And make sure that this is pointing to the correct version of PHP. Okay, save that. And next, we'll set up the corresponding sites enabled file. Notice that this is not sites available, it's sites enabled. We're going to unlink the default. Okay, if you don't do that, then you're not going to see your site. It's going to render the default of the site, not your site that you just set up. Now you're going to set up a symbolic link from your site, so from sites available to the one that you just created to sites enabled. And when you do that, you can confirm that that exists just by doing an ls on it, ls-la. Oh, you don't want to do sudo, actually. There you go. Now you get that color saying that it is a valid symbolic link and is pointing to sites available. You're going to need that. Okay, this is basic boilerplate stuff for Nginx. If you are familiar with this, then you might even just blaze right through it. Okay, we have to update a value in our Nginx config file. So go into here and add a line called client max body size. I usually put it right here. Client max body size, and I'm going to set it to 5 megs, and we might up that later on. This is what I usually do for WordPress, but we're doing podcast episodes, so we might need something bigger. I'll look into it. You'll need something like that. For now, let's do a save on there. Let's test our configuration. Sudo nginx-t. This is just checking to see if we have any syntax issues. If we don't, then we can reload nginx. And now I'm going to go over to here and add our DNS record. You'll see that I already have some CNAME records in here for stuff like site1.chups.com, rollminnesota.chups.com, stuff like that, Loki.chups.com. But those are all on the same server. For this specific tutorial, I wanted to show you on a brand new server how you would do it. You're actually going to create an A record. Let's do that real quick. You're going to need your IP address, and what I'm calling it is castopod.chups.com. So write castopod, and then get your IP address with, what is that? IP address, address. And in here, right here is my guy. You have to find your IP address, however you're going to do it. I can assume that you know how to do that. These are all different network interfaces, so they have different values. Yours are going to look different. Your setup is probably going to look different than this. So I'm going to save that. That worked. And to confirm that it's propagating around the world, I like to go to dnschecker.org. There we go. And we'll do castopod.chups.com, a record, like that. Now, notice I did a record. You can do that. You can also do a CNAME record. The reason why you would do a CNAME record is, for me, the way I organize my stuff is I use CNAME records when they exist on the same server. So, for example, my root domain is chups.com, and then I have a bunch of subdomains on that same server, and then I create CNAME records for those instead of A records. But this one's on its very own server, and this ought to work. Next, I need to explain certbot. So certbot is a tool to install SSL certificates. They are run by the EFF. That is an organization that has Let's Encrypt management. So they actually give out free SSL certificates as long as you manage to update them every, I think it's 90 days. So this is a very popular thing to do. Get certbot installed and then use that to generate SSL certificates, which will auto-populate in your Nginx server blocks. I'll walk you through that. I'll show you what that means in a minute here. But what I wanted to show you is that when you run this, you're actually going to run into a problem where you're going to need a TXT record in your DNS. Where did I go? Here we are. I already have my TXT record in here somewhere, and it's just a simple TXT attribute and then some text that you get from their output. So I think this was it for me. First, we're going to install certbot. Let's walk through the docs on how to do that. On their homepage, you would select Nginx and then Linux Snap. As much as I hate Snap. Install Snap. Debian. We are up to date on our apt, so we can do sudo apt install snapd. Yes. If you're wondering what snapd is, in this case, it's just a bunch of bloatware. It's a bunch of stuff. We already have apt. I wish they would just have apt manage our certbot stuff, but probably a way to do that. I just don't have it in front of me, and in their official docs, they don't have that. They insist on you using snap, which is dum 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 dum. There we go. All right, going back to certbot, and we're gonna do. All right, looks like this is gonna take a little bit. I will see you on the other side of this. Dum 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 dum. Oh, wait. Look, it's going. It's going. It's there. It's 100%. That means it's done, right? Nope. Nope. Gotcha. Just like back in the day with AOL, they would act like everything was about to be installed. It's 99% there. Then you're waiting for like 3 minutes. Oh, there. It's done again. Look at that. 100%. Nope. Okay, that is dumb. Done. Our certbot commands now. It wants us to create a symbolic link and choose how you'd like to run certbot. Okay, this is where we can actually run it. We can do this though instead, where it's sudo certbot nginx-d to describe explicitly which domain we want to. So, all right, email address, skip. This used to be pretty handy. They used to send out notifications of when your domain's going to expire, and then you can go in and fix that. I don't think they do that anymore, though. Now, agree. Yes, I agree to your terms, which are unnegotiable. Going to attempt to install the certificate, and for me it worked. For you, it should probably fail with a TXT record, as I was describing before. You're going to go to your DNS records and take care of that. But for me, I'm good to go on the SSL stuff, and you will get here. You just need to deploy that TXT record, then run your certbot command again, and it might prompt you with a number to input which domain you want to choose. Choose the correct corresponding number, and then you'll get to this point eventually here. All right, next is database work. We're almost almost to Castopod. I know that it's taking a while to get there, but we're working on it. Just before database work, I wanted to show you that you can confirm that the SSL certificates were installed. Go to your server block and you'll see some new text in there by certbot. It's just an SSL certificate reference right here and right here. And the server block down here is for HTTP requests that come in on port 80. If someone tries to connect to your site that way, they will be redirected to your HTTPS block, which is this one up here. And that makes it so that any attempt to go to your site will always redirect them to 443 HTTPS on 443. So that's good. Now, database stuff. Let's see how this goes. We're going to sudo mysql-u root. Should be able to just log right in, no password or anything required, unless you set that up. we're going to create the database, Castopod, then create a user. It should be whatever you want it to be at localhost and some super secret password. And then this part is going to grant all privileges to the Casto user on the Castopod database for all tables. I had to do it this way. I didn't want to. I had to do it this way to get it working. If you read their docs, it says that you need at least these privileges. I wasn't able to get it with least privilege principle. I needed more than that, so I just went with all privileges to get this going. Next, we're going to flush the privileges and then exit. And always test your connection. So log back in as your user with your super secret password. It's working, so just wanted to test that and get out. Clear the screen. And now I want to go and install the Castopod packages. Before I do that, I always forget to install Composer in a place where I can install it. So before I jump into unwritable territory, I'm going to install Composer. One sec, I'm just taking some notes on the side over here. Okay. Go to your home directory at your base and then download Composer, just as they do in their docs. Then you're going to move it in order to install it at this location. Now you have Composer. Well, that was easy. And next we're going to install packages in our website. So let's create this directory. It's the same directory that you configured in your Nginx server block. Then cd over to it. Then you should download the latest release, which you can find at their release website here, code.castopod.org. I'm grabbing this one right here specifically, this tar.gz. Then I take this tar command to uncompress it. Then I remove the compressed version, and then I rename the Castopod directory. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, you know what? I might already have it in here. I'm gonna rm-rf this Castopod. You shouldn't have this. This is something that I was doing earlier. So let's sudo rm-rf that. Don't worry about these commands at the moment. And now should have that, but we're going to rename it as Castopod. Okay, let's cd into that Castopod directory. Let's get started on installing some dependencies and front-end code. I'm going to reset all the ownership to be owned by my user so I can do everything in this directory. This is one way you could do it. There's other ways to do it as well, but now everything is owned by my user, which is going to be nice. And we will put it back to what it's supposed to be at the end. Take this command. It's going to be a weird one. Whoops. I don't know what the... Don't add that little dot at the end there. I'm going to confirm that that's not there, because that could cause problems. Okay. Nope, that's not going to be an issue. So this directory, I needed to create this because I was having download issues for the next thing that we're about to do. When we're doing Composer install, we are downloading a bunch of files, including from GitHub, where they have user agent information. For example, run this command, you're going to see a devices.json file that we need. And it needs to be installed inside of that directory. So go ahead and run that, and then one more just like it is going to be this guy, the GitHub user content bots.json. Then I'm going to do a Composer install. And you'll see right here is where I was having issues. This agentsgenerate.php, it was hung up because I didn't have those files and it wouldn't get them. And I don't know if that's only a problem on my server, but I wanted to force through that without having to deal with it. So Composer update, That was a recommendation at the top. And finally, we can get to the NVM part of this. NVM is this over here. It's a way to manage your node versions. And we're going to get NVM installed on our system so that we can get NPM, so we can get PNPM, which is what the developers of this project use. So let's just work through that real quick. It should be pretty fast. We're going to run that command, which is at the top of this document. It's not anything special. It's just how to install it. Right up here somewhere, right there. And they say to confirm it's been installed, you can see the output of this content in your .bashrc file. So you'll do like a, I don't know, a tail on .bashrc in your home directory. You'll see it right there. Now, you don't actually have access to this yet because you need to source it or log out, log back in or something, but I like to do source. And also, I already had this installed, so you're going to see a little bit different output. You'll see that it says already in there, but you should have it now. And you're going to do an nvm install --lts, long-term support node version. I already have it installed, so it's going to go quick, but it might take you a minute. Then you'll do PNPM dependencies. We're going to use npm to install PNPM globally. Mine was already there, so it probably went faster than yours. Now you're going to run PNPM install. And this is going to take a little while. Now that that's all installed, we can do one more special command here. I needed to do this in order to make this file executable. So run this, find node modules, and try to get that file specifically and add the execute command, or the permission, in order to do this next one, which is a run build. If you don't do that previous command, you might get some error messages during the build. Now this is just going to minify all the assets and put them in an assets directory. It's going to make all of your front-end client code optimized. If you're familiar with web development, JavaScript, etc., and the CSS files too. Once this is installed, we are going to run this command to confirm that the manifest.json is there, and this command, ls-la assets, to see all the minified content. You will see also that, well, all of our stuff is here and everything is still owned by our user. That's why we were changing it to be our user so that we can actually run these commands. At the end, we're going to change all that stuff back, but a few more things. Just got to do our .env file and our setup wizard. So our .env exists. We have a sample.env file in here under right there. What we're going to do is copy it. So do a cp.env sample to .env. Then we're going to run this little command so that we can have a salt generated. We're going to need this random character set here in order to add it to our .env. Open.env. Okay, this is what the sample looks like at the beginning, and we're going to edit these two sections here. You can just go in and edit between the quotes. I'm going to just remove all this content and paste in what I have. And you can keep it all neat and tidy with all these sections and stuff. That's what I would do. This first variable is pretty handy. It's used if you're having issues while working through errors. You can switch it to development in order to see a pretty handy error message on your page. So change your base URLs, add your salt here. That's going to be analytics, I believe, for like your podcast episodes and metrics that you get to track. Then you're going to have localhost, Castopod, your username, your super secret password. And there we go. That should be it. Save that file and clear your terminal. Now change all of our permissions back to what they were. cd up one directory. Change everything to be owned by www data. And then I like to also change my .env files to be just that permission, 600. Then restart PHP FPM and Nginx. And from here, you should be able to go to your browser and follow the install wizard. So let's see if this works. castopod.chups.com/cp install. Ooh, it's thinking hard. I wonder why this is taking so long. Okay, I think I see what was happening. There's some weirdness happening with my environment because I've done this so many times that it seems to remember me. When I destroy my database and bring it back up, it no longer prompts me for my first initial user information. So you're actually going to enter your .env file contents, not here, but you're going to see more fields, and you're going to see the fields for your host name, your database name, username, password, stuff like that. You're going to put this content in there. Maybe you won't because we created this .env file first. Maybe you are going to end up right here too because we already did that. It's supposed to auto-generate the .env. I just could not get that working, so that's why I created the .env first. But this seems to be working. So it's asking us for a super admin now. So go ahead and fill this out. You're creating this user, and you're going to need your password now. So save it somewhere where you're going to be able to find it. I got my stuff over here. Throw in an email address. I use Ananati for generating emails. That'll be another video for another day. I got podcast super admin over here, and then I got a password. It's got to be, this one actually has to be a decently strong password. I've run into some issues with basic passwords. Now, log in with your new user. And it doesn't ask for a username, it asks for email address. I think that's kind of silly. All right, log in. And boom, there we go. That is how you install Castopod. I hope this was helpful. It took me a very long time to get this process down. I feel like you could create some sort of installer with this video that would be a service to your hosting platforms. Another thing that we're going to want to do before we finish off here. Well, first of all, I guess we could navigate through and look at all the different pages. I'm not going to go and describe all these things. You can watch other videos for that. But something we skipped was the cron job. So let's go back to the docs over here. And they describe this cron job. I didn't do this before because I didn't want it to try to run jobs every minute of every day without the database even being there. So we'll do that now. Go back to your terminal and you're going to do, okay, so one thing they do mention here, it's pretty important. You want this for importing a podcast from an existing RSS feed, broadcasting to social activities to followers in the Fediverse, broadcasting episodes to open hubs, and generating video clips. And we have installed FFmpeg, so that's good to go. So this seems pretty important, but you're going to want to know which PHP version you're going to, or where your PHP is running from. That's typically the location, but you're going to need that for this cron job. Go ahead and create the cron job, but create the cron job with your www data user. So do it like this. And you can actually clear out all of this content unless you care about it. And then add their command. I got it from over here. We're going to tweak it so that this is your path to your PHP. Then this is going to be your path to Castopod/Spark. For me, I want to copy and paste it. So I'm going to exit out of here. Oh, before I exit out of here, I'm going to comment this out because I don't want it to run right now. I'm going to try to find that Castopod Spark thing. I think it's going to be under Castopod Spark. Yes. So I'm going to copy the full path, then edit that cron tab again, and path to Castopod Spark, like so. That should be good. All right. There you go. That will automatically start. You don't have to do anything else to activate it. All right, that should be it. I hope this was helpful for people who are struggling to install Castopod. I hope they consider updating their docs with more specific details. It is a fantastic thing that they did to just create that for creators. But I got a feeling there's a lot of people that are giving up on installation because of these docs. I went through so many different iterations of trying to get this just right. I have other notes here for clearing the cache and getting, I guess I could show you that command if you want to clear your cache. Well, I'll let you figure out things from here. I think that's good enough. But you might need to clear your cache in order to retry things. You might want to understand why there's a blank white page. You might try to look through error logs and stuff like that. So the two error logs that have been helping me are the Nginx error logs and then the PHP error logs, which not 8.1 but 8.4. I gotta update that. Yeah, so just tinker, try to figure out, go through one thing at a time, and debug and troubleshoot and get this thing up and running, and then start podcasting or helping friends podcast or whatever. This is actually a very powerful, empowering thing to have for people who don't want to be owned by other platforms. You can host your own content on your own servers, and no one can shut you up. And that's enough for this tutorial. This has been Chase Linsmeyer with Context Coding. Thank you for watching. Until next time, peace and happy hacking.